The next step in the initial assessment is the blood draw. And this is one of your final steps. The blood draw just is 2 blood tubes, a DNA tube and an RNA tube, and it's about 1.5 tablespoons total. You'll collect the blood draw with other blood if it's possible. So we just try to avoid sticking the person twice. So if the nurse needs to draw for a tox screen or for DFSA or anything like that, go ahead and coordinate with the nurse to find out if it's possible to do that both at the same time. And any trained person can collect the blood, not just research staff. So you're trained in the study, so it'll be your responsibility to make sure that you know where to store it and how to label it for the study and how to enter it into the database. But any person who's phlebotomy trained can collect the sample. So a nurse, a phlebotomist, an ER tech, anyone you need, they don't have to be trained for the study. So at this point, we're going to watch a video that describes the collection and storage of the blood samples step by step. Hi everyone, today we're going to go through the blood collection procedures with you, and I just want to take a minute to show you everything that I have in front of me before we get started. So I have an empty Ziploc bag, which is from my initial assessment packet, the Ziploc bags that you have in your supply closets at the site. So it includes your forms, your book, your business card, and all of those things. But more importantly, it has all of your blood collection supplies, which in just a minute Ashley's going to go through with you. The other thing that I have is my Women's Health Study Binder that has the copy of the SOP, where you can find all of the instructions for how to do a blood collection and a blood draw for the study. There's also a flow chart that can probably be found on your freezer at your site, and if not, it should be somewhere close to where you're collecting the blood. That has pictures, and it's sort of a visual for you to remember all the steps for collecting the blood for the Women's Health Study. And so if you don't have your SOP with you, this document is very helpful. The last thing I have with me is the study laptop and a barcode scanner, which we'll show you how to use in just a minute. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Ashley, and she's going to go through the blood collection procedures with you.
Hi everyone, so as Sarah mentioned, I'm actually going to go over the specimen collection procedures with you all today. Essentially, what you want to make sure you have is all of the materials from the 1 gallon Ziploc bag, and pretty much make sure that all your needle kits, your gloves, your biohazard bag, your bubble pouches, and your tourniquets are available for the blood draw, so your standard blood draw materials. But most importantly, you want to make sure that you have the 3 essential tubes in front of you. And the first, which is the blue cap, which of course is the DNA tube, the orange cap, which is the RNA tube, and last but not least, your volume measuring tube. And so that's the one with that is labeled 1 through 10 with the different tick marks. And also, most importantly, you want to make sure that you have 2 sets of labels available, which are the DNA, which is _PD, and your RNA, a barcode label, which is _PR. So we'll set those aside. But essentially, before you start the blood draw, you want to double check that you have all of your materials available. And also, once you begin the blood draw, you want to start off by collecting the DNA tube first. So we'll draw the DNA tube first, and once that is complete, you'll go ahead and invert the tube 10 times. And then followed by that, you will go ahead and draw the RNA tube, and also invert the tube 10 times. So the next thing to do is to actually label each one of your tubes individually. And so what you'll do is make sure that you have the correct label for the correct tube. So we'll start off by labeling the DNA tube. And so make sure again that it should say _PD for the DNA label. You want to remember that when you label each tube, you want to apply the label lengthwise with the barcode towards the top of the tube. And that should be lengthwise. And so essentially, you want to also make sure that you're applying the tube towards the, the available space on the tube, and so that we're not overlapping one label on top of another. And so we'll go ahead and peel this off. And again, apply the barcode lengthwise with the barcode label towards the top of the tube. And essentially, you'll go ahead and do the same thing for your RNA. So again, the RNA should be labeled _PR. You'll grab your orange cap tube, and you'll apply the label towards the top of the tube. Last but not least, you want to make sure that you've entered all of the necessary information on each label. So essentially you will have to complete the date and time of the blood draw collection, as well as the age, and fill in the RA's initials. And so you'll go ahead and fill in this information for both tubes, and once you have completed that, you'll go ahead and measure each of the blood volumes as well. So before you measure the blood volumes, you want to make sure that you grab your volume measuring tube, which is again the tube that has the labels 1 through 10 and a few tick marks, as you can see there. You also want to make sure that you have 2 bubble pouches, and each bubble pouch should have a sticker, and that also should say total volume. That's the area where you will go ahead and insert the total volume, and so that it's an easy reference when you have to enter the information into the database. And so what I'll go ahead and do is I want to make sure that I have a flat surface available in order to stand the blood tubes next to my measuring tube. And so I will simply stand the blood tube next to the measuring tube and look at the tick marks. Look at the tick marks and measure the blood tube accordingly. Once I have gathered that information, I will make sure that I jot that volume down on that particular sticker for each bubble pouch. So essentially, after measuring my DNA tube, I will put the DNA volume, the total volume, on the bubble pouch, and I will go ahead and insert that into its pouch here. And then we can go ahead and fold that and set that aside. I will also do the same for the RNA, and I will measure the RNA, and as well as put that total volume information on the bubble pouch, and go ahead and set that aside. So once you have completed the blood draw collection, the next thing to do is to actually scan everything into the database. And so what you want to make sure that you have is a cryo box, which will be used to place the blood tubes into the freezer. And you also want to make sure that you have your laptop computer as well as your barcode scanner. So what you want to do is you want to make sure that you've opened up the laptop to the Women's Health database. You want to ensure that you have the correct patient information pulled up along with the correct ID numbers before scanning anything into the database. So once that information has been located and is correct, you want to plug in your barcode into your computer's USB port. And last but not least, you want to go ahead and scan each blood tube. So what will happen is you will pull up the information for the DNA tube, go ahead and pull the tube out, and scan your tube lengthwise into the system. And that will register into the Women's Health database. And just for an extra reference point, you want to go ahead and double check to ensure that that ID number on the tube matches what's in the database. And in the event that your scanner is not working, you can actually enter that in manually. So you'll do the same for the RNA tube. You'll go ahead and take the tube out of its pouch, scan the tube lengthwise into the database, make sure that it's correct as well, and all of the information is accurate. Go ahead and place your tubes back into their appropriate bubble pouches and into their cryo boxes and into the freezer. So Sarah will actually continue with the rest of the blood training collection procedures as far as the website is concerned. So tune in for that. Thank you.
So one more thing about your DNA and RNA tubes. This is a Paxgene DNA tube, and it's marked with a red and a green line. So if you think about the lines where green means go and red means stop, green is where you always want to fill the tube to. So at the green line is where the blood should always be, unless for some reason you have trouble getting a full blood sample. If that's the case, just remember that if it's underneath the red line, we have to exclude the participant because we don't have enough blood for them to be eligible for the study. So if you think green means go, fill to the green line, red means stop, don't enroll the participant. For the RNA tube, it's a little bit different. Your orange top tube has only a red line, and you can see that the line is pretty high up on the tube because there's so much solution in there. If the tube is full under the red line, remember red means stop. Do not enroll the participant. There's no green line on this tube, but since it's so little blood, just go ahead and fill it up until the blood stops flowing and you'll have enough to fill the tube. Once you complete the assessment section, the database will route you to the biologics section. This page just has a short script where you'll confirm that the person is still okay with completing the blood draw, and also includes the script that you read to them earlier about what the blood is for, what we'll do with the blood, and also whether they'll have to go through more than one blood sample or more than one blood draw. So if they have questions, you can read the script to them or find the information that you need, but the script is really just there in case they have questions. So go ahead and click yes in this section, and then the next place you'll click is biologics. So the biologics section gets completed once you have completed the blood draw. So you have the tubes in front of you, and now you're entering in all the information about the draw. I'm going to walk you through this step by step, and it's pretty easy. This is the one section of the database that's a little bit different than the others in that it takes you out of the initial assessment. You can see now all of the other tabs are up at the top. It's not inside the participant's initial assessment anymore, but if you click this continue with wave at the end, it will take you back to the beginning, and we'll do that at the end. I'll show you that piece. So for right now, we'll always click initial wave because the blood draw is only collected at the initial assessment. And then the specimen status just means whether you have a full tube of blood, a partial tube of blood, or you weren't able to complete the blood draw. And if that's the case, the participant is actually ineligible. So if you tried to get a blood draw, but the patient was not able to give blood, go ahead and compensate them for participating because they were willing, but at that point they'll be ineligible for the study. But for today's purposes, we'll go ahead and put that we got a complete draw or 10 cc's of blood in each tube. And your tube ID is going to be on the label on your tube. And for today, I'm just going to put in A100_PD. This is also where you can use the blood tube scanner and plug it into your computer. It will automatically populate those fields for you. So if you want to use the scanner, you're more than welcome to do that as well. So when you put in the tube ID, this is the DNA tube because it's PD at the end. And you can see that the tube type pops up as DNA. Make sure your tube right now has a blue cap. If it does, then go ahead and click Save. It'll tell you your current site. So for me, that's UNC Chapel Hill, but for you, your site will appear here. And I don't have an overall comment, but this is where you can record anything out of the ordinary that happened during your blood draw. Once you click Save again, it'll take you to the collection information. So the collection date is the time that you actually took the blood sample. I'm going to go ahead and say that was today at 0900. And since we said we got a complete draw, we'll put in 10 milliliters of blood. Now, blood drawn by is either you, so if your name shows up on the list, you can click it, or if it was not you, no matter who took the blood, go ahead and click Other. Now, it could be that the blood drawer name, when it pops up here, shows up in this list because they are another RA in the study, but still click Other and put blood drawer name here. And I'm going to say that Jane Smith is a nurse. So, for example, I'm not phlebotomy trained. Someone else took the blood for me, and I recorded her role here. And then needle type, we try to use butterfly when we can. And the collection condition just means, was everything okay with the tube at the time of collection? So when the blood was being drawn, was the condition of the tube good, or did something happen, like the tube was broken or lost or something else? I don't have an overall comment. Everything else was pretty straightforward, so I'll click Save. And then the storage information. So the storage information is about when you actually put the blood tube in the freezer. So I'm doing that today, but I actually did it around 10 o'clock after the participant left. And the storage condition, the tube was frozen and it was in good condition, so I'm going to go ahead and click Good Frozen. And then I'll click Save one more time. Once you click Save one more time, that's all of the information that you have. So once that's complete, you can go up to the top and click Add Another Tube, which will then allow you to enter the information for your RNA tube. So at this point, I'll go in and say Complete Draw, A100_PR this time for RNA, and you can see that populates here. Remember that your tube IDs also are supposed to match. So if your DNA tube was A100, your RNA tube should be A100. When you click Save, the next box pops up. Don't have any overall comment. And the collection time was the same as the other tube. I also have 10 cc's in this tube. I'm going to say other, and Jane Smith also drew this tube. She drew it at the same time. It was also good. And I'm putting it in the freezer at the exact same time as the DNA tube, so 10. And it was also good, and I click save. Now you can click continue with wave at the bottom of the page, or what I like to do is actually do it up here, because this gray box helps me remember that I need to add another tube and not just the DNA. So this gray box is kind of a nice way to remind yourself of anything else that needs to happen next. But if you've already completed it and you don't have any other things to do, then go ahead and click continue with wave. So that will actually take you back to the person's main assessment page for the initial assessment. So at this point, you've completed everything up through the wrap up and payment, which we'll click on right now. And this is where we'll actually finish up the visit. So the last piece of this is that you're going to thank the participant. You'll give them their study payment. You'll give them a business card with the study contact information and also your contact information. And you'll give them a copy of the book Recovering from Rape by Linda LaDre. So the script is on the page, tells you exactly what to say. So thank you for your time today. I'll give you a call in a few days to talk with you more about the study as a way of saying thank you for participating today. We'd like to send you home with a copy of this book that some women find helpful after experiencing sexual assault. Most sites are doing gift cards, so we'll do that just to show you how this works. When you click Site Gift Card, you can see that another sample script pops up that tells you exactly what to say about the gift card. So you can tell the participant, as I mentioned earlier, we're paying you $20 for your participation today. You'll have them sign a copy of the gift card receipt payment form that's in your initial assessment packet, the little Ziploc bag with all your forms in it. Before you send the participant home, make sure that you call the number on the sticker on the card to activate the card. And the activation code is always 2021, and it's listed here in red just in case you ever have a question. But make sure that before the participant leaves with that card, you call the number and enter the activation code. So I'm just going to go ahead and put in a pretend gift card number here. And I'll say it's going to expire about a year from today. And I called to activate the gift card. And the payment form was signed today. So that's the receipt for gift card payment form that we were just talking about. And again, you can say thank you so much for your participation today. I'll talk with you in a few days. If you have any questions in the meantime, here's a business card with the study contact information. And then at that point, if you want to enter your information onto the business card, there's a blank line where you can put a cell phone number or an office number or whatever you want to use in case they need to get back in touch with you before you call them back for their final assessment. At this point, you can go ahead and click the right arrow. And in this section, you, the interviewer, will rate the quality of the information that you think was obtained in the interview. So if you don't have any reservations about the information that was collected, you can go ahead and click Excellent Effort and Comprehension and click the next arrow. If you do, that will take you basically to the end of the assessment. But if you have any other sort of reservations, you can click Good or Fair, and it'll take you to a reasons page where you can put down why you're rating it that way, just so we have an idea of what happened during the interview. So maybe you have someone who has to get to another appointment and was rushing through the interview. You can put down participant was rushed. Or maybe you have someone who was getting a lot of phone calls during the assessment and didn't really seem engaged. You can put interruptions or distractions. Whatever reason you have for not putting excellent, just go ahead and document it here. And if you have anything else to say, you can sort of update us on what was not excellent or write any other comments you want to. And once you complete that, you'll be at the faxing and emailing page. So If this is something that your coordinator does for you, you are finished, and as long as all the other parts are complete, you're completely finished with this interview. If this is something that your coordinator does not do for you, this is something that you will be doing, then go ahead and fax and email the forms that you need to send to UNC, which varies by site, and we can talk a little bit more about that if you have individual questions, but go ahead and send us those forms as needed. If you want to get out of the initial assessment completely, you can click Return to Main, and that will take you to the main participants page. Once you finish the entire assessment and you click on Return to Main, it takes you to the main participants page. And once you get to this page, you can actually look up your participants. So I'm going to just, for training purposes, show you. I was just in participant 414, and if I click on Summary, it'll show me everything that was complete for that person or not. So if I didn't complete every piece, like I didn't complete the contact information for that person, then it'll show pending. But if I've completed a section, it will say complete. I also want to show you, if you are back on the participants page, if you click on Initial, it will actually take you back into that person's initial assessment. And so you can see what you did earlier and just make sure that all the pieces are complete. All right, now that you know all of the collection and storage information for the biologics portion of the women's health study, now is a great time to go into the biologics section yourself and practice entering in the blood tubes.